Okay, let's see how you did. These three terms do not have a common factor. So we'll move on to the next step. Can I find a binomial to put here and a binomial to put here, such that when I FOIL, I end up with this expression? To get started, we have to come up with pairs of numbers that multiply to 4 and pairs of numbers that multiply to -3. So starting with 4, I know 4 times 1 will give me 4. I also know 2 times 2 will give me 4. Now, working with a -3, pairs of numbers that multiply to -3, if I start with 1, well, you know the pair of numbers have to have opposite signs. One has to be positive, one has to be negative to give me a product of -3. So if the first is 1, the second has to be -3. 1 times -3 is -3. If the first is 3, the second has to be -1. And then I'll list the pairs where the first coordinate is negative. So I have -1 times +3 and -3 times +1. And it's all over but the work, which is what's going to take us most of the time to get through. So take a look at the 4 and the 1 for the first position. I have 4x, I have 1x, and let's begin. Let's plug in the +1 and the -3, and I'm going to begin to take a shortcut here. We know that 4x times 1x is 4x squared, gives me the first. The last product, 1 times -3, gives me a -3. That will be the case through all of these checks. So I'm not going to multiply the firsts and multiply the lasts. I'm going to concentrate where all the action is, and that is with the outer and the inner. The outer 4x times -3 is a -12x, and 1 times x is +1x. -12 plus 1 is -11, does not check. So this first pair doesn't work. Let's go to the next pair, 3 and a -1. 4 times a -1 is -4x, plus 3x gives me -1x, does not check with my middle term. Second pair's out. Let's go to the third pair. We have a -1 and a +3. Outer's +12x. Inner's -1x, which gives me +11x, does not check. Let's go to the fourth pair, which is -3 and +1. Outer is 4x. Inner is -3x. 4 and -3 give me +1x, does not check. I've run through these 4 possibilities. I didn't get a check. That means that 4 and that 1 is wrong. Let's go to the next pair. So I have 2x in the first and 2x in the first. We've run through our 4 possibilities again, starting with +1 and a -3. Now again, first times first, 2 times 2 is 4, x squared checks. Last times last, 1 times a -3 is a -3. That checks as usual, so I'm not going to repeat that each time. We check a different pair. Let's look at the outer and the inner. 2x times -3 is -6x. The inner is 1 times 2x plus 2x, which -6 plus 2 gives me a -4. We have it. Our answer is 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 3. Feel free to run through the FOIL check. We have our expression factored, and we're done.